Hi guys, my name is Evan Joker. Welcome to another video. Anyway, I've been thinking about this idea for a very long time, and I've been trying to make sure that my theme for what I talk about in these videos doesn't digress so much. But I've also gotten to realize that sometimes I make videos that I want other people to watch, not the videos that I want to watch. So I think that's where I'm going actually with all the videos that I want to be making. Anyway, today I want to talk about time, um, what it means when you are poor, and what it means when you are rich. And obviously, this is a very complex economical, socio-economical topic that has got so many layers to it. But I want to talk about this idea that we have learned in the modern world of the 24 hours, and that we have convinced each other that 24 hours is the same. You hear motivational speakers, you hear writers and preachers, and everyone, they'll tell you that, you've got the same hours, irrespective of who you are, whether you're rich or you're poor. But that is kind of like not true, when you are rich and when you're poor, time does not mean the same thing. As a poor person, time can be a liability to you. As a rich person, time can be an asset to you. Let's say, for example, you are starting from day one or from year number one. The other person is rich, the other person is poor. Um, if a rich person is investing something, they are not so much mindful about tomorrow because they already have got money. They are not so much mindful whether the returns are going to come next week or next year or whatsoever. But when you are poor, you're worried about this moment. You're worried about today. You're worried about what you're going to eat. You're worried about where you're going to sleep. You're worried about what you're going to wear. You're not worried about whether this stock is going to make money 10 years from now. That is out of your making. That is out of the options that you're considering for that matter. So people have been sold to this idea that 24 hours is the same irrespective of who you are, whether you are rich or whether you are poor. The 24 hours is the same, it doesn't matter. And for me, it kind of like frustrates me a lot when I hear people talking about all these things. And maybe because at some point I kind of like believe the same stereotype, the same kind of like garbage that people talk about to say, we all have the same 24 hours. And I can tell you guys that we don't. When you are rich, you have got leverage of so many things. You can decide today not to cook. You can tell your wife that she mustn't cook. As a matter of fact, by that time you would have had someone to cook for the wife or for the family. So you have got leverage of time. So which means that whatever that if your wife was supposed to cook and you were supposed to maybe do overtime later at night, you can just have that as a time out with the family. Now, for someone that is poor, that is not the case. They have to make sure that they prepare for tomorrow, they must prepare for work, they must get the kids ready for school, they must make sure that they catch up with the kids, what has happened to school today, etc. Sorry. So, when you are rich, you kind of like have options in terms of you being able to have a long-term vision on how to do things. But in most of the instances, people will blame you for not having a long-term vision. They'll say to you, why can't you have a 5-year plan? Why can't you have a 10-year plan? And to be honest with you, it's very difficult to have a 10-year plan, to have a 5-year plan if you don't know what you're going to eat tonight. And as my friend has told me, it's easy to philosophize when you have eaten. But if you have not eaten, it's very difficult to come with any philosophy. So we live through this life, through this economical scale where people try to convince each other, especially the rich people, they buy everyone so that they can rank everything. For example, you will see that every year you will have all these stats that says that, this university is the best in Africa, this is the second university, this is the third university. And you know what, to be honest with you, for me, like all of that, just a complete garbage for me, because I kind of like have this intuition that, universities get ranked so that they can be marketed. Oh, UCT is the best university in Africa. Let's flock everyone into UCT. This is a bad university. And usually you go to these universities that are being marketed like that, and you realize that you cannot afford them. As a poor child, you cannot afford these universities. You can only afford to go to UNISA, you know. But now you have this thing in mind that if I could have went to UCT, I would have been the best engineer. So therefore, if I go to UNISA, I can't be the best engineer. It means that I should do everything that I can to be able to go to UNISA, not to go to UNISA. You kind of like have this type of a thing. And this is one thing that have been frustrating me a lot lately, to realize that we have moved away from the fact that we need to get people educated, and we're in this process where we start classifying ranks and ranking universities and where you have been, the school that you went, where you're from, and all of those type of things. We have just created this class system and class society where like everything is not only about what it is or what it is for. It's actually about all of these class systems. It depends on which university you went to. It depends on the type of job that you do. It's not only about the education per se. It's about where you went from, where you got your BSc. It's not really about that you're an engineer. It's also about where you got the engineering degree from. It's kind of like we are overlapping in all of this type of garbage every single day. And what you get to realize is that it's kind of like once you're rich, you're always going to become rich. I don't know. I've lived through this, patterns of history where people say, "Oh, this person was rich, and he died, and the family became poor," and all of those type of things. I really try to introspect the type of rich that these people had, because you see, one of the things that happens about rich people is that they buy assets and they never sell them, and they just go and get debt to be able to live their lifestyle and whatever that they do. Of all the people that I can say that they were rich that I lived around, is people that had credit cards. And as a poor person, you cannot keep up with the credit card because you're gonna use it to service your lifestyle. You don't have asset, you don't have anything. You live from hand to mouth every single day. So actually it cannot work for you. It's always going to work against you. So this type of facilities is for rich people. It's not designed for someone like you. You have a credit card, you're gonna try to go out with it, you're gonna go and book trips, you're gonna go and impress women, and all this type of useless thing that you can ever do with this type of money. But with rich people, even that's why they try to scam the tax system. Like, you as a poor person, you're always paying tax on everything. You're paying tax on the car that you have, you're paying tax on the fuel, you're paying tax on the clothes, you're paying tax at school for your kids and everything. So you actually live to service this system. And this is the very same system that you're trying to overthrow. You get to work, and then you do the work, and after that you have to think about, no, this is month end, I'm going to get money, and then you plan around it, and it's still not enough. You try to get a side hustle, but a side hustle makes you to get home late, and you can't see your kids, and you can't see your wife, and you get home tired, but it also have to be early in the morning. So it's kind of like there's this system that you're trying to follow and feed every single day, that you're trying to survive. But at the core level of everything, you have to be honest with yourself, which is you have to realize that your 24 hours is different from a rich person 24 hours, because you live for necessity, you live for survival. You need to make sure that the house get paid at the end of the month. You need to make sure that the car get paid. You need to make sure that you pay the school fees, unless the kids will be expelled from school. So you kind of like live on this basis where it's today for today. You don't have this grand scheme. And the system, the way it's designed, doesn't allow you to think about the future, doesn't allow you to think like beyond today. Month end is coming. When you're still trying to think about your life, the next month end is coming. You're trying to think about your life, next month end is coming. So you kind of like in this loop up until you die. And it's very important that you kind of like try to think about all of this thing, because one of the things that you need to assume or realize that, think about it like this: what if you're in a situation where you have to pay maybe your bond once in 5 years? Will that change the way you spend your money? Will that change how you relate with money? Will that change the way you use your time? Definitely yes. Definitely yes. For example, this system where it says, where you kind of like have to retire at 65 or you need to retire or whatever. It's kind of like you have to think about it for yourself to say, you know what, why do I have to retire at 65? What if I want to retire early? What if I want to leave the system early? What then happens? What system do I have to put in place? And for me, it's kind of like something that we never ask ourselves. Same thing like with presidency. Why can't we have a president every year or every month? It's very difficult to imagine this type of ways because this system is very much entrenched and engraved in your soul to say that you know what, you have to pay every month. And you see it with everything. You see it with the storage, cell phone storage. You see it with your insurance. You see it with your with your internet and whatsoever, fiber line. All of these things, you have to pay it monthly, because if you pay it monthly, it means that you won't have time to think about 10 years from now. You won't have time to think about 100 years from now. So you're kind of like locked into the system, which you keep on servicing every single day. And there's no way possible that one day you're going to get out of this, because already you're in the system, you're feeding it, you are being enslaved by it. And this doesn't mean like you have to fight or you have to be angry about it, but this is kind of like you need to have your own analysis. You have to have your own thinking to say that is it really true that we all have the same 24 hours? If that is the case, then where is this concept not true? Because every concept, there's a situation where that concept is not true. So therefore you have to try to analyze, where is this concept not true? But I can tell right now, it is not true that we all have the same 24 hours. Even if we do, we have the number per se, but the level of focus, the level of interest, the level of where we put our attention to is different. If you are rich, you're thinking about 10 years from now, because you don't have to worry about rent, you don't have to worry about insurance, you don't have to worry about your phone contract, But if you're poor, you must think about today, you can't think about tomorrow. And this is the type of thing that people don't want us to discuss. People want to say, no, just be happy that you have got a job. Just be happy that you have got something at least, right? Because people are because these things, it's reality and it's too complex to think about. How do you imagine society where this is not normal, right? So this is what I wanted to challenge you to say, think about the 24 hours. Think about a rich person 24 hours. Do you think that is the same? I don't think so. See you on the next one.